Hello there, everyone. How's
Hello.
everyone doing? Great. Well, welcome to the Grand Rapids Camper Travel and RV Show. We're excited to be back with you guys today. This is our fourth time presenting in Grand Rapids, and I am David Hutchison. Please call me Hutch, and I'm accompanied by my beautiful wife, Sherry Gagliardi. We're coming to you from the inside of our vintage 1957 canned ham camper that we lovingly call Hamlet. Together, we are freedom in a can. Now we're coming to you live from the shores of the Llano River in West Central Texas. We wish we could be with you all in person in Grand Rapids today, but I have to say it's a beautiful day out here. It's about 75 degrees, it's sunny, and I am in shorts.
Yes, we are both wearing shorts and t-shirts right now.
So if there's an upside, it might be that. But we want to see where is everyone joining us from today. So there's a chat function, whether you're streaming on YouTube or in Facebook. Go ahead and throw in the chat there where you are all coming from. We'd love to hear from you. And this chat function is a great way to react to the video as we're going through, and we'll collect maybe some questions or comments in the as we go through. So today's presentation, which is about camp cooking. All right, we got some Seattle. There we go. Awesome. Good to see you from Seattle, Michigan, right?
We've realized with this that there's a little bit of a delay. Is there anybody else out there? Got
wanting to represent Grand Rapids. Don't rub in the... Sorry about that. 19 degrees. You're hardcore.
Oh, good to see you, Mike.
Nice, good to see you, Mike. Awesome. Bunch of Michiganders. Great to see you guys.
Wonderful.
You can soon be in warm water. Great. So this is the first of 3 presentations and seminars that we'll be giving this weekend. And the second is going to be on Solar 101, how to size your RV to an appropriate solar system. And the third will be the tips and tricks, our tips and tricks for exploring our nation's national parks. And that seminar we'll be giving at 7 p.m. tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Cool. All right, so today we are going to showcase 4 different recipes, and we pre-recorded this as a video last week in a local campground to show you how it would work in a campground kind of setting. And we did it as a recorded video because we didn't want you to have to watch us cooking the entire time. And that way we could fit in more recipes and more tips and tricks in about 40 minutes. So we do hope that you'll comment along the way, or hearts or exclamation points or what have you. Please feel free to type in your questions, and then we will answer those questions at the end of the 40-minute video. Okay, so we will see you in about 40 minutes. So enjoy.
Enjoy. Are you ready to turn your camp cooking up to 11? Then stick around. Come on! Hey everybody, this is Hutch with Freedom in a Can, and welcome to our outdoor cooking and baking seminar. You know, we may live in 72 square feet, but we do not cook like it. Oh no, we love to challenge ourselves to cook and consume delicious gourmet food. With so many of us going outside, cooking outside, we need to step our game up just a little bit. We can do better than traditional hamburgers and hot dogs. We're going to be sharing several recipes that we'll be preparing. This is stuff we've developed over the last 8.5 years of living on the road, and they're all scratch-made recipes that can easily be accommodated to fit all kinds of dietary restrictions. So what's on the menu? To start off, we have a flatbread with smoked mozzarella, pesto, caramelized onions, and fresh tomatoes. We'll be following that up with a savory and oh so ooey gooey enchilada pie with a homemade hatch chili sauce. And for dessert, a German chocolate cake, which just happens to be my lovely bride's favorite dessert. So stick around and enjoy.
Hi, this is Sherry, the other half of Freedom in a Can, and I thought I would introduce you to some of the essential tools that we use not only in here in Hamlet in our kitchen, but also on the campfire and anytime we're traveling without Hamlet as well. So first and foremost is the Banks Fry Bake, and this thing does exactly what it says it does. It fries and it bakes. And the unique thing about it is we can make cornbread, we can make coffee cake, we can make that German chocolate cake that Hutch was talking about. That is my absolute favorite dessert. Brownies, but we can also saute vegetables. We use it almost every single day. And this is a unique thing that you probably don't have in your kitchen. You may have it in your camp kitchen, but this is a backcountry pot set that can be used for mixing bowls. It can also be used for cooking on the stove, but we have added this insulator to it, which you may recognize as something that you would put in the windshield of your car to keep the heat out. Well, it keeps the heat in. So we can use it as a warming bin. So a stack of pancakes, or if we sauteed vegetables and we're going to be working on something else, we want those to stay warm. Anything that you want to keep warm, you can put in this insulated pot set. This is a fun little tool, and you may recognize this as something that would sit in a normal stock pot. Well, when we moved out of our house, we got rid of that stock pot, but we kept this. This serves as a steamer, a strainer, or colander. But this patina that's on it is as a result of the fact that it sits on a campfire and it serves as a grill basket. So we will grill vegetables inside of here. And recently Hutch figured out that it also serves as a salad spinner. So if you put wet lettuce in here and you spin it around, yes, indeed, you will have dry lettuce. So multifunctional tool, truly essential to our life. This is your standard Coleman griddle, and it turns our 2-burner propane stove, or even on a campfire, into a flat top. So we can make everything from garlic bread and scrambled eggs, paninis. We can just simply toast, but we use it almost every single day. We have a couple different tools that you probably have in your kitchen. We have a long-handed spatula that we use over the grill, and these tongs are not only for salads and such, but we also use them to move coals around in the fire, and Hutch will be showing you that a little bit later on. This is the only electric kitchen appliance that we have. This is an immersion blender, and we run on solar, so we limit our electricity as much as possible. But we use this for pestos, we use this for soups, we use this for sauces, fun cocktails. We're going to be making that from scratch hatch chili sauce that's going to go on the enchilada pie, and we're going to be using this for that purpose. Pliers. Now, why do you consider that a kitchen tool? Well, it is the handle of this fry bake. So it has a nice solid grip on this when this is heavy and full of things. And the reason why you want a removable handle is because handles get hot on the campfire. So you can just reach in there and grab it when you need it, and that stays nice and cool. One last thing. We have a 10-inch Dutch oven. Now, this is a cast iron pot. It is a heavy mug, so you can also use it to lift weights. It's like one of those kettlebells. It's got a nice heavy lid on it, and you can use this to make lasagnas. You can bake with it. Hutch has been mastering sourdough bread baking this season, and we're going to use it to make that enchilada pie that Hutch referred to. You can also use it to make desserts, all sorts of stuff. And it lives outside because it gets a little dirty with charcoal, so that lives in our garage on the outside of our camper. So those are the essential tools that we're going to be using and cooking with. So I'm excited to get cooking. We're going to start off by making the dough for our flatbread or pizza. It's pizza dough. Now this is a recipe that is truly foolproof. We have been using it for about 22 years now, and we have made this dough all over the world. Backpacking trips, sea kayak camping trips, here in our camper, everywhere. We've taught people how to use it as well, and it is truly foolproof. So what's in this bag, this is a big Ziploc bag, is 3 cups of flour. You can either use bread flour or all-purpose flour, a teaspoon and a half of salt, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, a package of rapid rise yeast, or you can use pizza yeast if you can find it, and about a cup of water. And you put all those ingredients here in this bag, and then you're going to use the bag to knead the ingredients. So you want to make sure this is a relatively new bag, not something that you've used a couple of times. That way you can prevent a blowout, and you don't want to have to deal with ingredients going everywhere. So all you have to do is just gently at first start kneading the ingredients together. This takes a little bit of time. But when we're doing this with other people, we pass it around and let everybody get an opportunity to knead. We've taught college students how to do this when we worked at the university. And you want to give it a good hand. You know, I've seen people kind of go like this before. That's not really kneading, and you don't want to really go after it because you'll pop the bag open. So, but you want to give it like you're getting a really good massage. Alright, so I've been kneading this for about 5 or 6 minutes, and as you can see, it has formed a nice ball and it has pulled away from the side completely, so it is ready to rise. So the next thing you need to do is put this in a nice warm spot. So it could be in the sun on a picnic table, it could be on the dashboard of your car. We have done that and arrived and made people pizza as soon as we've arrived at a campground before. But the all-time favorite way to rise the dough, especially if it happens to be chilly outside, is what we call pizza baby. Now, kids of all ages love this. Now, all you gotta do is use your body temperature to rise the dough. So you put it under your shirt, and you get to sit back, drink a glass of wine, have a beer, whatever it is you want to do, and just use your body temperature to help warm that dough and let it rise. You can pass the pizza baby around, you can have it all to yourself, whatever you prefer.
So as you can see, the dough has risen, it's puffed up the bag, and it is all ready to go. Now we let it rise for a couple of hours to get to this state. If you're going to do the pizza baby technique, that needs at least a minimum of 30 minutes. We like to let it go for a little bit longer. We just think it conditions the dough a little bit better. It's easier to work with, and we think it's tastier in the long run. Now this recipe is going to make 2 flatbreads or pizzas, however you're going to decorate them, and that'll feed a group of 4. Since it's just the 2 of us, we're going to cut this in half and set some of it aside to make some cinnamon rolls tomorrow morning for breakfast. So it's just an added little bonus here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the dough out onto a floured surface. I'm going to work it for a little bit. We'll be using the Banks Fry Bake to do this. I've already got some onions in here caramelizing. Now I want to get not only the pan hot, but the lid hot as well. And these onions, oh look at them, they're ready to go into the warming bin. We're going to bake it like a pancake. So I'm going to spread this out in the pan, and I'm going to move the pan into the middle between the 2 burners so that we can rotate and distribute that heat. And then once the bottom is done, we'll flip it, we'll decorate the top with our toppings, and we'll cook the bottom and melt the cheese on top till it's just oh so delicious and ready to go. Okay, let's get started. olive oil in there. We've got our dough looking wonderful. I'm actually going to take this out, put it on a little bit more solid surface. Now with this recipe, you really can't be shy on the olive oil. We're going to coat that. Now if I left the pan just over the single burner, all that heat would be concentrated right in the middle. So again, we're going to slide it right to the middle, and in order to distribute that heat, we're going to rotate the pan. I've got both burners and I've got them at about medium. So every couple of minutes, really, about maybe a minute, you're going to just give it a quarter turn, give the whole pan a quarter turn, and it'll start cooking that other side, and it'll distribute that heat evenly, and you'll get a nice crispy bottom. So when you're outside cooking, this is not a turn on the timer and walk away. It's something that you need to engage all of your senses. And I could smell that this edge was getting a little bit overdone, so I'm just checking it, but you can see still needs a little bit more time. And actually what I'm going to do is move it to one burner. You can see it's not quite brown in the middle. I'm actually going to move it to one burner, put the lid back on, and let it get nice and golden brown on the bottom before we flip it. Alright, let's check that out. Yeah, I'm feeling like this is ready. Yep, nice. Ooh, look at that. So, hold back on cheese. Throw the lid back on. Move the whole assembly to the center, and we'll start rotating again. I'm hearing sizzling, I'm smelling good smells from the pan. Let's go in and check and see. That looks done to me. Yep, that's looking great. Banana. Sprinkle a little fun on it. Some little touches. Oh yeah, that is the stuff. We're ready to go. And I just love cooking on a campfire. There's nothing more sort of deep in the human race than doing this very activity. Anytime you're going to be cooking with fire, you want to make sure you've got a lot of supplies nearby. You've got lots of wood, extra sticks in case I want to control the fire. But we're not trying to burn our food. We're not trying to cook over a very hot, high flame fire. We're trying to cook over coals. So we're going to let this fire burn down as we prepare to make our enchilada pie recipe, which we'll be doing in the Dutch oven over the campfire. Now, while this fire is burning down, we can take advantage of that high heat, that high flame, and we can go ahead and saute our veggies that we're going to put in the pie with the grill basket right on top of the fire. And I've already gotten the grill basket nice and hot. And enchiladas, you know, they're kind of like lasagna. Any ingredients that you want to use for filling, any ingredients goes. We're using onions and peppers and mushrooms, and we'll also be doing a whole mix of beans as well. And we're going to do this right on the fire as well. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in here just to keep those from sticking. And these pot grips or pliers, man, they just come in handy for all kinds of things when you're cooking. And what I'm going for here is a nice caramelization of our veggies, because that caramelized just gives it so much flavor. So now these veggies, they're just looking delicious. We're gonna go ahead and put them in the pop set warmer. Keep these nice and warm while we work on the rest of the recipe. It's one way to avoid getting soot all over your pot when you're cooking on the fire is to just apply a thin layer of soap all over the bottom of the pot. And that thin layer of soap, it just helps remove that soot when you go to wash up. And that's a trick I learned from a woman who had attended one of our camp cooking seminars. And she said, "Oh, do you know the soap trick?" And I was like, "No, tell me the soap trick." So now I'm passing it on to you. Now we're just getting these beans warm, so bringing them up to a nice temperature. Whew, and that fire is nice and hot. So we've made good use of our hot fire to saute vegetables and to heat up some beans, and we want to still take advantage of that to bring the Dutch oven up to temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and put some coals around the lid. This is the great thing about the Dutch oven, is that you can put coals directly on top. But this is not the cooking fire yet. We just want to bring the Dutch oven up to temperature and get it nice and hot so it's ready to go. We're using corn tortillas, and we're just going to give them a nice light fry up. And these will be creating the layers. Now this enchilada pie recipe, we're going to use the corn tortillas kind of like lasagna noodles to make that layering effect in the casserole. And it's really delicious, and it's a lot easier than, say, making stuffed and rolled enchiladas. And I guess I'm just a lazy chef because I like things that are easy.
So the key to this savory, ooey gooey enchilada pie is the hatch chili sauce made from scratch. Now, how we learned how to do this, we were in New Mexico visiting a friend, and we were going to make her this enchilada pie, and we asked her, "Hey, do you have a couple cans of enchilada sauce?" And she looked at us like, "What's enchilada sauce?" And we said, "You know, the stuff that comes in a can." And she said, No. Here in New Mexico, we make our enchilada sauce. Let me show you how." And she gave us the recipe, and we have never gone back. It's a couple of simple ingredients that we always have on hand: flour, salt, garlic powder, onion powder, some bouillon, and the key ingredient is some Hatch chili powder from New Mexico. So just add some water to that. We'll give you the recipe later. You put it in a pot, just stir it all together, and then you're going to use an immersion blender, or your blender, countertop blender will work as well. And you are going to blend this up until it's silky smooth, and then you're just going to heat it on the stove. So it's that simple.
So now we've taken advantage of that cooking fire as it's slowly burned down to a nice bed of coals. And now we're ready to start assembling our enchilada pie. We're going to be doing it like a lasagna. Sauce first, tortillas, and then beans, onions, peppers, mushrooms, cheese, sauce, repeat till you get to that top layer where you can do just a nice layer of thick cheese to give it that ooey gooey yumminess. Final topping of cheese. See, I always think you can never have too much cheese. So now we've got a really good cooking fire, but I'm going to spread it out, otherwise it'll burn. It'll be too hot on the bottom. But what I like to do is keep some of the bigger coals going over here so that I have kind of a fire going on the side to keep adding fuel when I need it and if I need it. And when it's a cold day, it's also nice to keep that fire going. Now, right now, that is well over 500 degrees. I can only hold my hand there for about a second before it's too much. So I really got to move these coals, rake them out, and get a spot that won't be too hot for the Dutch oven. Boom, there she goes. You're cooking on an uneven heat source, so you are going to be the evenness. Just by rotating the pan around, you can rotate the pan in one direction and rotate the lid in another direction, and that's going to even out your heat throughout the enchilada. This is a great technique for baking in particular because it just really helps you distribute that heat evenly. So when you're cooking like this, you're going to engage all of your senses. How do things look? When you peek inside, ooh, that looks so good. What kind of sounds are coming from it? Is it bubbling? Is it crackling? How does it smell? Does it smell overdone? How does it feel? Does it feel too hot? Does it feel too cool? These are all the things that are going to give us a sense of how our meal is coming along. And right now, we're actually pretty close to done. We've got melty, gooey cheese on top. We've got a nice bubble coming around. I can hear it bubbling. I can see it bubbling. It's just wonderful. I think I'm going to let it go just a little bit longer. So if you're feeling that your enchilada is cooking too fast or too hot, you can always take it off the fire, keep the coals on top, and it'll cook from the top down. So I think we're about finished with our enchilada. I can hear it bubbling, I can hear it sizzling, and we're gonna check it out. Now slowly lift so that you don't get ash in your meal. Oh my goodness, that looks so yummy. So before we serve this, we're gonna let it set up just like you would a lasagna. Ooh, just look at this. An amazing enchilada pie, ooey gooey deliciousness. And we are ready to decorate. Took little bit of yogurt. We use Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. I think it's a little bit healthier. And with our cooking, so many things start with an onion and end with avocado. I think we could make a little cookbook. Start with an onion, end with avocado. Now what the heck? Just throw it all on there. Put that there. And then a little fun decoration, a little spicy ranch, maybe. Finish that up. And there you have it. We've all been making the enchilada pie out here. Inside, Sherry's been whipping up this delicious chocolate cake batter for our German chocolate cake. Now this recipe comes from the Moosewood cookbook. It's a vegan chocolate cake. It says a 6-minute chocolate cake. And it doesn't use eggs for leavening. It actually uses baking soda and vinegar to create that airy, light, fluffy, chocolatey, delicious. I defy you to give this to anyone and have them say, that's a vegan cake. It is so delicious. Add the 2 tablespoons of vinegar. We're using apple cider vinegar, and you can kind of watch what happens once that vinegar and the baking soda interact in the cake. And what I love about the vinegar is that it actually gives the cake a little bit of acid, and it just brings up the flavor. And all you taste is delicious, light, chocolatey goodness. So I've already heated up our pan, and I'm going to go ahead and use the adjustable grill on this wonderful fire ring. There are a lot of different kinds of fire rings that have this adjustability, and I love this one in particular. The reason for that is because we want you to be careful about the amount of heat that's on the bottom. With the high sugar content in the batter, that can easily scorch to the bottom when you're baking. So we're going to want to adjust that as we sort of use all of our senses to bake this cake. What I'm going to do is spray it down. The pan's already hot, so the cake is ready to go. And if it makes little sizzly noises, that's all a good sign. The greatest thing about this being a vegan chocolate cake is that all this runoff goes right into the chef. Now we're going to put the lid, check it for ash. Got my tools right here, and I'm going to start loading up some coals on top. And a lot of ways that cakes get baked in these fry bakes is from the top down. You almost want to think about it in a top-down setting because of that high sugar content. It's so easy to scorch the bottom. So really, kind of play this cautiously when you're starting out with that bottom heat. And what if you don't have one of these grills? Well, you can use what you have around you. Big sticks, maybe rocks, just to elevate that pan off of those cooking coals. So let's check in and see what's happening. Remember to use all of our senses while we're cooking. Ooh, look at that. That smells great, and I don't hear anything sizzling too much, so that's a perfect clue that everything's going along great. Let's go ahead and check it again. And we're gonna test the inside just like you would in a regular oven. We'll just use the old toothpick method. Ooh, yeah, not there at all. Even though the top's sort of drying out a little bit and looking like it's almost there, we still need a little bit more time. Oh yeah, we are done. This cake is done. Now we have a little hole in the lid that has just happened over time. So a little bit of ash does get in onto the top of the cake. It doesn't hurt anything. Just gonna loosen the sides. Et voila. Now we'll let that cool for just a few minutes before flipping it over and icing the top.
So we're going to stir this until we have a nice pudding-like consistency. It's getting real close, nice and thick. Then we're going to mix in the pecans and the coconut and the vanilla. And we'll have ourselves some German chocolate cake frosting. Okay, so we turn the cake out onto the plate. Now that it's nice and cool, we can go ahead and put that German chocolate frosting on. So you want it just a little bit warm while you're spreading it so it's workable. But overall, you are just smearing it on top. Now you can make this a double layer cake if you want to. If you're feeding a lot of people and you want to make 2 layers, absolutely go for it. But since we're only 2 people, we're going to stick to this, and we might be giving some of this away to some lucky campers that are camping next to us. A nice even coat. There you go. German chocolate cake made on the campfire.
So it's a chilly morning here in the campground. It's hovering near freezing outside, so we're going to be cooking inside on our 2-burner stove in our camper. I've got that leftover dough from yesterday, and we're going to be turning this into cinnamon rolls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it out into a rectangle on the floured surface. And if you don't have a rolling pin, that's okay. Use a water bottle, wine bottle, something round and clean. We're going to cover that rectangle with some margarine, cinnamon sugar, and we're going to add some nuts, but you can add whatever you like. I'm going to roll that up into a skinny round log, and then we'll be cutting it into cinnamon roll slices. Yay! Just gonna use the old fingers. So while the cinnamon rolls are baking, we're going to make a little icing. This is just a couple of tablespoons of powdered sugar. We're going to put just a little bit of milk, or any kind of soy milk, almond milk, anything like that. We're just going to mix it together. And we're going to add just a touch of lemon juice for some zest. You could also use vanilla, anything like that. And I just like to whip it up until it's all dissolved. You just need a little splash of milk for this icing. Hardly any at all. There we go. Let's see how we are doing. Ooh, those look so yummy. Breakfast is ready. Thanks so much for joining us on our outdoor cooking and baking seminar. Here are your 5 takeaways. 1, anytime you're cooking with fire, you want to keep it small. Controlled fire, not a big bonfire, something you can add to, take away easily.
You also want to keep everything nearby. So that's tip number 2. You want to make sure that you have all of your tools and everything close to you, next to the campfire or next to the outdoor grill, and that way you're not running back and forth and in the meantime something burns. So keep it nearby.
And number 3, when you're cooking on an uneven heat source, whether it's wood or even when you're using a 2-burner stove, it's really hot in the center, so keep it turning. You want to move around and distribute that heat evenly.
Number 4 is keep it level. And what we mean by that is if you're baking a cake or cornbread and you don't have it level, you're going to end up with cornbread like this or a cake like that. So just make sure it's nice and level if the ingredients inside are a little liquidy or gelatinous.
And part of the spirit there is to improvise. So if you need to use a rock to prop your pan up in the fire,
Absolutely.
Use that.
Absolutely.
We've done that before with great success. Number 5, keep everything in check. So check back frequently. I said earlier, this isn't a pop it in the oven, set a timer and walk away kind of thing. Engage all of those senses. Just keep practicing, try new things, push yourself a little bit harder, and get in touch with us. Let us know how it works.
Yeah, we cook this way all the time, and we'll post this stuff to our Instagram account, YouTube, Facebook. So please join us on our social media, and we'll see you on the road.
There we are. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on that that cooking show. I don't know about you, but
We're hungry.
Yeah, I'm
just
ready
watching it again.
Yeah. So where to find those recipes? That was one of the questions that came up during the seminar, and you'll look at right here, this link. Go to the resources on this link under this presentation. And you can find a link to all of those recipes, which are on our blog. And all the tips and tricks yeah, Carolyn's starving. Yeah, I am too. I'm right there with you. Whose idea was this to do right before dinner? Come on.
Yeah.
We'll all blame Derek.
So yeah, you can find the recipes there on the guidebook there for the Grand Rapids RV show. Also on our blog, there's a bunch of other recipes that you'll find that we do on a regular basis. So those are just the ones for this particular seminar, but there's a ton others as well. So what other questions do you have? Anything? You can smell the fire. Yeah, so could we.
So what questions do you have? We'll entertain that for the next couple of minutes and try to answer some of those questions. One thing, Sherry and I are both vegetarians, but the great thing about those recipes and the recipes that we promote is that they're easily adaptable for
whatever.
I mean, like, how hard is it to throw meat or chicken or anything into those enchiladas? It would be no big deal. Many of the recipes we have can be easily altered to be gluten-free, and just because they use just a little bit of flour.
Yeah, matter of fact, we have on our blog protein-packed pancakes that we don't make any other pancakes anymore. We just make this premix, and it's wonderful. And it only has a 1/4 cup of flour in it, so that's an easy switch from regular flour to gluten-free flour. And the rest of the bulk of it is made out of oatmeal, and they're fantastic. And you eat pancakes and you're hungry in a couple of hours. Well, these pancakes will last quite a few hours because they're protein packed. So, can you talk about baking bread in general on the fire? I'll turn that over to Hutch.
Yeah,
He's the master bread baker. So
thanks, Mike. Yeah, I mean, this year has been, kind of like the year of sourdough, and we were no strangers to that, because even as we were sort of in our pandemic camp in the National Forest in Virginia, we weren't getting any. There was no yeast available, so we jumped on the sourdough bandwagon and we started making some sourdough bread. We use it, yes, in the Dutch oven on a campfire. I use the same techniques that you saw in the video, in terms of, once I've shaped the loaves and the loaves have risen, I'll get the Dutch oven really hot. I'm looking for around 500 degrees, and a good rule of thumb, or a good rule of hand, is if you can only hold your hand over the fire, or over the coals rather, for a second, that's at about 500 degrees. Of course, everybody's sensitivity to heat is going to be different, but you're not going to be able to maintain that heat throughout the baking. So you have to have that extra fire. I like to keep a fire nearby to kind of keep it cooking adding, and just to sort of manage that hot. And when I'm baking, when I started out trying to bake bread in the Dutch oven, even though I could do pizza, I could do all kinds of cakes, I could do cornbread, I could do all of the things, I really struggled with the baking of bread, because it tends to be a little bit more finicky, because you're trying to not only get a good crust around the outside, you're also trying to cook it throughout. And so that's a tough call, but it just takes practice. And finally got
he's mastered it. I will be the first one to jump in and tell you that the bread that he's been making has been absolutely fantastic. Nice and soft in the middle, lots of bubbles in the middle, and lots of crust on the outside, exactly like you want sourdough bread. So I'm going to be the judge of that, and it's fantastic. So he is also, I'm going to brag on him a little bit, he's also figured out how to make focaccia, beautiful, crunchy, just delicious focaccia in that Banks fry bake pan. And he does that just on our 2-burner stove inside of Hamlet. We do have a recipe of that on our blog as well. It's just a recipe we got off the internet and kind of altered a little bit ourselves. Right. To make it work for us. But yeah, it's just great. So, and
it uses that pancake method.
Flip it.
So do you add water to create the hard crust? Yeah, Mike, you can certainly do that. A lot of people will bake with a heated pan in the oven, a pan of water, to give it the more air, or to give it a little bit more moisture while it's cooking. The secret to the hard crust with the water is sort of a high moisture content in the dough. So high hydration. And of course that means it's hard to work with. And, when you're in the RV, it's hard to move it around. I find that if you've got parchment paper, to transport it from the shaping bowl into the Dutch oven, that's a great trick. That helps me manage those high moisture, sticky doughs. You can spray water inside the Dutch oven when you're cooking, or when you're baking, and that will also help. What that does is that actually helps create a more uniform crumb, a uniform bubble crumb, and you don't get those big open pockets of air inside the dough. But another great thing to do to get some experience with that Dutch oven is to actually use the Dutch oven in your conventional stove or your conventional oven. So bake the bread inside the Dutch oven and experiment a little bit with that to then transfer that to the fire. And that's what I did this summer, because we were in Michigan with my parents, and my dad and I think my dad might actually be watching. I hope it is. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. We had this little bake-off, a little competition. I had my sort of imprecise, sort of by the gut feel, and my dad is a chemist for his whole life, and he's a precision baker and a precision recipe follower, and
they both turned out great.
They both turned out great.
They were both fantastic.
I liked his bread. He liked my bread, and my mom and Sherry, of course, were the
winners.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we were the winners.
You were the winners.
Bread just kept coming. It was great.
But yeah, hydration is a key factor, and the higher you're able to get a hydration in your dough, the better the bread will turn out. But again, it's harder to work with. It's sticky and messy, and it can be really hard when you're outside, because you drop it.
Don't drop it. Yeah.
Don't drop it.
Any other questions or anything that we missed previously?
There's a comment about cooking out west with fire bans. Yeah, that's a situation of dealing with the West.
And that's where the 2-burner propane stove comes in handy. They don't outlaw those. We do actually quite a bit of cooking inside of Hamlet on a 2-burner, a 1950s 2-burner stove that works phenomenally well. And so you can do a lot of this stuff inside or on a regular, Coleman stove, or we have a Primus stove. Yeah, anything like that.
Carolyn says, do we have to give up campfire hot dogs?
No,
of course not.
You can just mix them in.
We love, there are these great Light Life makes a veggie dog that has gotten me through my becoming a vegetarian, because I loved hot dogs, because I grew up in central Michigan where they have kogels with the skin. Those are so good.
So are you asking about top-down cooking? With that top-down question, we're going to assume that you are. So that's just putting, you're talking about on the 2-burner stove? So you can, if you notice, Hutch was heating up the lid simultaneously with heating up the pan when he was making the pizza on the outdoor propane stove. And I believe you did that a little bit with the cinnamon rolls as well. So he's heating the lid and gets the lid nice and hot, and then that actually does some top-down cooking for you, if that makes sense. If you can build a small fire, we've also built a small fire off to the side just to get some coals going, and then just putting a couple on top. But if there is a fire ban entirely, of course, you don't need to be doing that. Right. So just experiment a little bit. Also, there's always something that you can use, like a butane torch, to keep that lid hot. It's any sort of plumbing torch, anything like that. And you can just keep, going back to the lid and just heating it up from the top, and then it'll cook from the top down. So lots of different tricks.
Or I'll use this to sort of finish off like nachos, or anytime I'm melting some cheese on top of something. And you don't want to like overcook the eggs on the bottom. You can turn off the heat, pull out the little flame torch, and this is a hardware welding torch, but it's refillable butane, and it'll just help you finish from the top down. But you can also use various other kinds of large torches to do that, like a plumbing torch or something like that. Those are great tools to have around, because it just helps you finish that like last 3% of what you want.
Or gets it nice and browned.
Exactly.
If you want to brown some cheese on top or something like that, you can do that.
Other questions?
Okay, well,
great.
You certainly, if you think of other questions, keep asking them. We would just like to thank our sponsors tonight. Big thanks to the Grand Rapids. Rapids. Right there. It's opposite for us. Yeah, we're pointing here. Our sponsors. The Grand Rapids Camper Travel and RV Show for having us back, and we're looking forward to being with you all weekend long. It's going to be a ton of fun. We also want to thank The Dirt. It is the #1 camping app in the US, and we absolutely love it. Use it all the time. We've got Renogy Solar. They supply us with all of our solar equipment, and we're huge fans of them. So thank you for that. As well as Wheelers, and they are a new affiliate and partner of ours. And if you are interested in trying out an RV before you actually buy an RV, they are a consolidator. And so it's kind of like Expedia and Airbnb combined. And you can rent an RV in your area. You can try out a trailer. You can try out a Class A, Class B, whatever it is that they have available for you. And yeah, rent before you buy, and then you can figure out what you like. So thank you again to all of those sponsors, and for you guys for joining us this afternoon. We hope we haven't made you too hungry, but hey, it's almost dinner time wherever you are. So you can go out and start cooking.
And we'll see you back here at 7 p.m. for our tips and tricks for exploring our nation's national parks. Thanks so much, and we'll see you later.